So here we are again. We're here with Mr. D today. I'm super excited to welcome you guys and even more excited to meet Mr. D in the flesh. He offers math courses online. Today, he's talking to us about goal setting, though. So I'm just going to hand the floor to him and let him teach us all the things. Welcome, Mr. D.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Katrina. Okay. Hello, everyone. Wow, you guys are all bundled up, man. Must be cold there. Is it that time of year? It's getting cold already?
It was windy today, Mr. D, super windy.
Oh, if it's below 70, that's cold to me. So it's probably
it's cold.
cold to you. So I'm saying hi right now. I'm talking to you from San Juan, Puerto Rico. So it's nice and sunny and warm here. So hi. And so welcome. So we're going to get in and get going with goal setting. So let's jump right in. If that's all right with you guys, I'm going to get going with this. What I'd like you to do, feel free, you can use the chat window, and the chat is set to a public chat. So you can come in and you can say, you can put chat in there. If you want to turn your sound on, that's okay too, because this is a very interactive kind of session. So for people that are watching the recording of this, here's what I'll ask you to do, because I'm going to ask our friends here, Tanya and Jody and Jessica, all here right now, to do this, to make sure that you've got something to write with and something to write on. So you're going to need some blank paper, a pen, a pencil, crayon, whatever you like, finger paint, it's all good, chalk, whatever works for you. Okay, and we're going to go through a goal setting process. This process is really great. You can use it with, if you're a teacher and you're going to be doing it with a group of students, you can do that. If you want to do it with your family, you can do that. If you're going to be out somewhere and you're part of a community group and you want to do it with a group, this is a great process to go through. And it's kind of fun to go and do together. So off we go. And I know everybody's ready to go about, here we go, because it's that time of year to get started. So why not start with goals? And when we move through this, this is, to me, this is what a young person's life looks like. Okay, so here they are, and they're taking a look at where they want to go and what they want to do, and they really just kind of don't know. They're kind of going in different directions. How many of you have a young person like that right now, and you're like, or maybe you're like that. You're like, oh, like, yeah, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going, and it's a little confusing, right? So that's totally okay, because once we pick a path, then we can decide where we're heading on that path, if the path works for us, and we can modify it as we go. But sometimes when you look ahead and you see all these different paths, we don't choose and we don't pick, we don't select. And so what we want to do is, like, let's start doing the selecting. And then once we do the selecting, then we can modify as we go. So here we go. How many of you have heard of the SMART goal? Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. You guys have heard of that? Okay, well, we're not going to do that. Okay, so forget that. You don't have to remember any of those words. I always see these long acronyms of things, and when I see them, I realize it's like, by the time you learn all the words to the acronym, you're bored and you're like, let's just go on and do something else, right? So what we're going to do instead together is we're going to work on what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, now, as a math guy, you probably wouldn't think of a math guy as big on language, right? But as a math guy, language is one of the most important things to me, because what we see with our students when they take our math classes, it's not that they can't do the math, they just don't understand the words in their math problems. And so we focus a lot on language. And so I'm really big on that. I like to look words up in the dictionary. So if I want to come up with a definition for something like a self-fulfilling prophecy, I simply just go and say, okay, well, the word self, that's you. And then what does it mean to fulfill something? Well, when you're fulfilling something, it's something to put into effect. So if it's self-fulfilling, then we've got you putting something into effect. And what's that? Well, that would be a prophecy. And a prophecy, by definition, is a prediction of something that's going to come. So when we talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy, put those three things together, and we've got a self-fulfilling prophecy as a prediction of something to come that you put into effect. And if it's your goal, we want you to be the author of that goal, that you actually get to have a say. Now, that's it. That's the vocabulary lesson. And now we're going to get going. Ready, set, goals. So there's three parts to this, and it's really simple. Are you ready? We're going to figure out what you want. figure out when you're going to get it, and then create it. That's it. Okay. For you guys here, how many of you guys like to write stories? Tanya, you like to write stories? Jessica, Katrina, Jody? No? Yeah, kind of. How about your kids? Your kids like to write stories? No, they don't either. Okay, good. Well, sorry. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. By being people who don't like to write stories, I'm going to ask you to write a story while we're together. Okay. And the reason why I'm going to ask you to do it is because when your kids say they don't want to, you can say to them, but I did it. And here's what happened. Okay. And it's kind of one of those things. Like if you're like, well, I'm not going to do it. And then your kids come back and go, well, I'm not going to do it. And then you're like, okay. So instead, let's model for them, right? So we're going to play together, work together, and we're going to write a story. So here it comes. So what I'm going to ask you to do is figure out what you want. And so start with a rectangle in the middle of your paper. So you want to leave a good part of room above and below, put that rectangle right in the middle, and then write down today's date, 1 year in the future. So today's August 20th. So you're going to write in here, August 20th, 2022. And I'll even make my A capital in August. There we go. Okay. So it's a year later. So here we are. And it's 1 year later. The school year's over. You just had a summer and you're getting ready for next school year, right? So here's the date, August 20, 2022. And what I'd like you to do is to come up with something that you would like to see happen between now and then. Okay. Now, a couple of tips about this, right? It has to be about you and your life. Okay. So it can't be about your husband. It can't be about your kids. It can't be about your dog. It's not about your neighbor, about your schools or teachers, right? This is about what do you want for yourself and your life, like what that might look like. So maybe it's something around health and fitness. Maybe it's something around business. Maybe it's something around adding on a new addition in your house. Maybe it's something that you wanted to do as a family vacation. It could be anything, right? So here's some things that I'll ask you not to think of as like, well, I just want my kids to be happy. Okay. Or I want my husband to finally finish that addition to our house. Not going to happen, right? We want this to be about you and your life. So I'm going to give you a minute to think about, well, what do you want? And then write that down inside the rectangle. And you're going to have this happen by August 20, 2022. Okay. And while you're writing, if you notice that nothing's coming to you, anybody notice that? It's like, I don't know what I want, right? So if you notice that nothing is coming to you and you're like, well, I don't really know, that's a hint that you need to practice this, right? Because if you notice, it's like, wow, I can't even think of anything, right? It just means that that's a muscle in the brain and the thinking that needs to be exercised. And the more you practice this, the more things will come to you. Okay, so let's hear from some of you guys. What'd you come up with? What is it that you want to achieve between now and next August 20? Do you want to say? Go ahead, Jessica.
Okay, I'll share.
Yeah.
I love to read and I never have time to read. And so I would like to read. And I gave myself a goal of how many books I'd like to read by next year.
Okay, good.
10
How many books? 10 books?
10 books. Yes,
Awesome.
that's my goal.
Okay, I love that goal. Okay, great. Good. Tanya, how about you?
Well, I started an online class and I would like to finish. It's an at your pace online class and I would like to finish by next year.
Okay. All right. So what did you write down in the rectangle?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. There's an online class that I want to finish. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm sorry. So there's an online class that I've been slowly working my way through, but I've been working my way through for the last year. So I want to be done with it by next year.
I got you. Okay, good. So I want to share with you two things you just said. The first thing you said, I'd like to be done with it. And the second time you said, I want to be done with it. Okay. So what's another way you could say that?
I will be done with it by this time next year. Yeah.
Yeah, good. So that's why I asked you what you wrote down in the rectangle. I did hear you, but when you write down, actually write it down. I have finished this class. The class is complete, however you want to say that, but it actually happened. Okay.
I am done with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
I have completed.
Yeah. Oftentimes we hear people when they say, well, someday I'm going to do this. Well, when is someday? I don't know. Or I hope to do this. Well, okay, but how about just do it, right? We have we have some people that are teaching some classes, and I asked them if they would get something done over the weekend, and they said, well, I plan to do it on Monday. And I said, well, how about just do it on Monday? And sometimes people are funny with me about that. They're like, oh, aren't you being a smarty pants? Well, it literally makes a difference, right? Because planning to do something and doing something are actually different. Like, you're young people. How many times have you asked somebody to clean their room, right? They're like, well, I plan to do that. Maybe I'll do it, right? How about I'll do it, and then it's done. So, Jody, how about you? I don't know if you're able, that you want to turn your sound on and tell us what's your goal?
Sure, Mr. D. I'm driving down the road, so that's why I've had things
Oh,
off.
gotcha. Okay.
I have a great vision board at home. So I have my goals on my vision board, but I don't have dates with them.
Okay.
So for example, one of them is I want to build eternal relationships with my family right now. So that needs to have some, I think, bullet points under it for myself on what I need to do, and specific relationships.
I
And then
love it.
second, I have like a second home that I want to get, and I just haven't put a date on that. So I need to do it so I make something happen. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's awesome. And you can take either one of those, because we are going to bullet point and bullet point, bullet point. You'll see how we do that. So, Katerina, how about you?
Well, I said the same thing as Jessica, only my goal was very unrealistic. So I'm wanting to, I said I wanted to read 20 books by next year, but I gave myself a second goal, and I want to be more consistent about teaching my faith to my kids. So I wrote both of those goals.
Okay, good. All right. Well, which one do you want to work on right now?
Well, again, I'm going to knock the book one off because I think that maybe 10 is completely unrealistic. I should have.
Okay.
So I'm going to work on being more consistent teaching my faith to my kids.
Awesome. Okay, good. That's great. And when you say teaching, being more consistent, what does that mean to you?
Well, I just kind of do it whenever it fits, and I would like it to be something that actually happens consistently.
Okay, good. So something that's scheduled?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So like, maybe you might want to say, I have a schedule. We're on a schedule of practicing faith in our family, or however that you want to say that. Like, it's scheduled and it's done, like it happened.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good. That's awesome. So, by the way, if you're listening to this recording, right? So what we're doing right now, just so that we kind of get it again, like in language is very powerful. And oftentimes we have the way that we'll say something is that we say it where it leads us that it may not happen. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't happen. But there's another way we can say things that when we're focused and direct and intentional, that you're already a step ahead by having it be like, this shall be. Okay. So, all right, here we go. So we've got this goal, and everybody's got a great goal. I love all of them. And we've got a date 1 year from now, right? So the next thing we're going to do is you're going to draw 4 ellipses. Another way to say ellipse is an oval around the rectangle. So if you will, you can put one here, one here, one here, and one here. And I'll show you a better clean version of this. It'll look something like that. Okay, so when you guys have that written down, you can just kind of nod, let me know that you have it. And I know, Jody, you're driving, so you may not be able to do that while you're driving unless you have an assistant there that is writing things down for you. That's great. Okay, you guys got your ovals there. And you're going to notice that it turns into, this goal setting process becomes super easy, because you're like, oh my gosh, this is just like simple, right? So what you're going to do with these 4, and I call them an ellipse because that's the cool math name from Algebra 2, right? And when we talk about those, but you can call them ovals, is totally fine. Or just call them a stretched out circle, either way. In these 4 ellipses, what I'm going to ask you to do is write down what is one thing that would have to happen so that you can achieve your goal. So you'll put one thing in this first ellipse, you'll put the next thing in the second ellipse, you'll put something in the third ellipse and something in the fourth ellipse. So you're going to have 4 things that would have to happen so that your goal can be achieved. So if Jessica is reading 10 books, you might have to select what books you're going to read. Then you might have to have a schedule for when you're going to read them. Maybe you have to buy the books, or you're going to get the books on loan, or maybe you're going to get them on Audible and have them as a download and listen to them. Okay. Maybe you have to you know, whatever that looks like to you, like what has to happen. And obviously you have to read them. There's that too, right? So, so you have that in there. And I'll give you guys a moment, and Tanya, as you're doing your class and you're looking at what that looks like and how you get that all done, there's the components of it. It might be, okay, here's my schedule for my class. Here's the times that I'm going to have scheduled the time that I do the class, time that I have time to practice for the class. You know, there's all the different things you can look at in what that looks like to get you what you want. Okay. And then as you get those 4 things written down, just kind of nod your head at me and I'll know that you're done because I can see your videos. Okay, everybody good there? Katrina, all good? Yep. Tanya, good. Jody, you good over there? You got thought of your 4 things?
I'm thinking hard of them.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, maybe it's determining which of the 4 people you're going to be building relationships with, maybe, or it could be more than that, right? Or what that looks like, or how you're going to make time to do that, or what needs to get done. So, okay, awesome. All right, so the next thing is you've written what needs to happen. And now what we're going to do is we're going to build 2 rectangles around each of the ellipses. Okay. So now there's going to be 2 rectangles around each of the ellipses, and it's going to look something like this. And then what you're going to put in those rectangles is what's something that has to happen that will make what's in the oval happen or in the ellipse happen. So if I'm looking here, and actually, let's see, Jessica, let's work with yours. Is that okay? What's one of the things you put in your ellipse?
I put set aside time to read.
Okay, great. All right. So you've got some time. You're going to set aside some time to read. So what would you have to do so that you could set aside some time to read?
Go to bed on time.
Great. Okay, good. That's one of the things. Go to bed on time, right? Okay, awesome. I'm going to offer one to you. Okay. Ready? Ask your family permission to have you have time to read.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And that could be 2 things. So 1, go to bed on time. The other, get your family's alignment. Like ask your kids, hey, you guys, is it okay? I'm planning to read 10 books. That's my goal. I'm going to read 10 books by the end of the year. And is it okay if I schedule time? And then once you have their alignment and partnership, then bam, off you go and you can schedule time. Okay. And a really cool thing about young people is that they want to see you win. Isn't that funny? Like, I know you want to see them win, but believe it or not, they're happy when you're happy. And if they see mom and dad, man, being out there, just having an amazing life and accomplishing things and just getting things done, it gives them permission to do the same thing. Okay, which is why I have you go through the process, because now you're giving yourself permission to do this. It gives your young people permission as well. Okay, so believe it or not, this is it. This is the framework for goal setting. If you notice what we just did, and you go back to that SMART thing, right? And you go through all those things, we just did all of that, right? What did we do? Well, we created some specific milestones, and they're all in here. There's your goal. And then there's something that has to happen. And what do you need to do to get those things to happen? So it's actually pretty straightforward in terms of, if you look now, and if you have each of those things written in, guys, maybe I'll give you another minute. Do you have them all written in? You got 2 things for each of the things in your ellipses? Not yet? I'm going to give you a minute to do that, because you're going to have the goal completely laid out, and you've got a visual display. And Jody was talking about the vision board, right? It's awesome to be able to have a visual display of something you've created that you can go back and look at. If you're watching at home, and you can take an opportunity for this pause to do your own. Katrina, can you see doing this with your 8-year-old? Kids are great. Kids can do this. We've had 5-year-olds do it where they just draw pictures of what they want. So
Well, he just got out some paper, so I'm curious to see if he's going to draw or if he's joining us with goal setting. So we'll see.
okay. Bring it on, Lincoln Log, man. That's awesome. Okay, how's it going over there? Tanya, you good? Got everything? Jessica, all good? Yeah? Okay, good. All right, good. Jody, I'm gonna take a guess. You're doing good over there while you're driving, multitasking. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Katrina?
Well,
Yeah.
Mr. D, this is Jody, and I do have one question.
Yeah.
So I am pausing so I could write down my notes.
Oh,
Tell me the difference
awesome.
between write something that has to happen in the ellipse, is that what you called it? I will call it an oval, or the rectangle, write something that has to happen. Is the one the metric of another, right? That I need to do bubbling next to the two? I think I missed that portion.
Yeah, so where I'm writing right now on the screen, what you put in the green, in that green oval, you have to look for what would be 2 things that would happen so that happens. So you want to look at so you're looking at the 4 things that need to happen. And then each one of those is going to have 2 things that have to happen to make that one thing happen to lead you to your final goal. Does that make sense?
Perfect. Thank you. That's what I thought.
Okay, perfect. You're doing great. All right. So here we go. So the next thing, as we do this week, I call this a cluster diagram, right? And it becomes a visual display. When I've done this in the past, and I'll share with you some more about my own experience with doing these goal setting. And I've been working on this. The first time I saw this exercise was in 1993 when I was in graduate school, and it changed my life. And I've been doing it. I do it every year. I do it now every year on January 1st. It's my New Year's Day, what I do, and I create the year every year. And I've been doing that now for, well, over 20 years, right? So it's pretty amazing. Built our entire business on this goal setting program, really, because we keep creating, well, what's the future look like, and what's it look like, and what's it look like? But the first time I did this, I had a coach, and my coach had me go through, and actually I'd done this several times, but my coach had me go through when I put this display together, and she said, you're going to put this on your bathroom mirror, and you're going to have a copy of it in your car. And every time when you get up in the morning, you're going to read it to yourself out loud. And before you go to bed at night, you're going to read it to yourself out loud for 6 months. I was like, what? Anyway, but I was like, okay. So I did it, and it was pretty amazing. But I'll share with you that story and just as we finish up here. It was pretty cool what happened. All right. So the second part is starting to look at now time. So if you would just kind of take a look at the green ovals and just number them. Like, when would they have to happen? Which one would happen first, second, third, fourth? Just kind of take a look and see. And how long do you think it would take? Would that take a couple of weeks? Would it take a month? Could you do it in a day? What does it look like? What is the order that things would happen? We're going to send one of these to you all as well, that you can print out, and you can have a clean copy of this. And the one that I'm going to send you actually has has 8 ellipses and 4 rectangles around each ellipse. So this is just to practice and get going. But if you want to take it further, you can take it further too. Okay. So how are you guys doing? You got your kind of your order and the sequence, and sometimes you might notice, well, maybe the one here, this is a 1, but so is this. Maybe they're happening at the same time and they're overlapping, and that's okay, because we just want you thinking about what's happening and when would it happen, trying to get the idea of what's happening and when. You can pick dates for when you want those to happen as well. Okay. All right. So here we go. That's part 2. Part 3. The most important part is writing your story. So now you've got this goal. You have what the goal is. You actually know when it's going to happen. You know things that are going to happen. And not only do you know things that are going to happen, you know things about what has to happen to make the things happen to get you to your goal, as in the rectangles to the oval, back to the big rectangle. And now we're going to write a story about it. Okay. And it's a story. It's made up. It's your story. And if you think about, if you know any like the Covey trainings, right? They always look at this, begin with the end in mind. Like you look at what's out in front of you and then you create that path to get there. And that's what we just did. So here's the rules, okay? 1, it has to be a reflective story, like it already happened, okay? You're going to start with describing yourself after you've gotten what you wanted. And I'll give you an example what that looks like. As you start with describing yourself after you've gotten what you wanted, then you're going to go back in the story and start to reminisce about all the things that happened and when they happened that got you to the future. You can actually take the things that you just wrote down and you can start to turn those things into sentences for your story. So I had to do this and I had to ask my family to give me time, and here's what happened. And my husband was like, oh my gosh, of course you can have time for that. My son was like, well, I don't know, Mom, I got to really think about that. But they thought about it and they came back and said, yeah, of course you can, Mom, right? So, it can have fun with it. And that's what it says, right? And here, if you notice, I say here, you must, and it's capital, right? Why? That whatever you write down can and often does happen exactly the way you create it. And it's, oftentimes if you think about when we say, here's what's going to happen, and it happens, and you end up being right about it. Or, the other side of that's true too. It's like you wake up and you're like, this is not going to be a good day. And at the end of the day, you found out it wasn't a good day. Well, is it because it was a bad day, or is it because you said it was going to be a bad day? There's all kinds of different ways you can look at that. But we have seen this over and over again, that know that what you write down can and often does happen exactly the way you create it. And then have fun, be creative, and be open to a world where anything is possible. So I'm going to give you right now about 7 minutes to write your story. And it'll start out something like this, okay? It's August 20th, 2022. And here I am. I'm looking at the 10th book that I just finished. I feel so great. I can't believe it. I can't believe that I went back and I actually read this last book. And this last book, I really loved it. And I'm here at Starbucks. My kids gave me time that I could, and I can say Starbucks because I know in Alaska, you guys have more Starbucks than anywhere in the world. So it's awesome, right? But here I am in Starbucks, and I took time and I'm having a coffee and I'm finishing my last book and I'm just enjoying it so much. I'm looking out and I see the mountains and I see the snow on the top of the mountains, and it's just so beautiful. And here I am, and I feel so accomplished. And then I think back about how did all this happen? And I was like, wow, well, I came to this webinar with Mr. D, and here he is, and he's having me create this self-fulfilling prophecy. And I thought at first he's a little crazy, but he says he is, so it must be okay. And then you go from there and you say, and the first thing I needed to do was I needed to figure out how to schedule time for this. And so I went and I asked my family permission, which was a big thing for me. And here's what happened when I asked them for permission. I got permission. And then the next thing I knew, there was like getting my schedule and actually scheduling time. And I had time to go and read this and start reading my first book. And then I read my first book and I got so excited about my first book, it led me to the second book. And here's what I needed to do for that. And you just keep creating the story like the story actually happened. And you're reflecting on how it is. So you start with 1 year into the future, right now, as a year from today, as your goal is accomplished. And then you come all the way back to now and rebuild the story as what happened throughout the year. Okay, so here we go. it's 7:01 my time, right? Which makes it what, 3:01 your time. So at 3:08, we'll stop and we'll see how you are. Ready, set, go. So did that seem like a long 7 minutes? Here we are, right? And you got your story going, and there it is. So that's our goal setting process. You've actually created a goal. And if you look at it now, if you look at it, it's like, it's specific, it's measurable, it's time bound. You've got dates, you've got what's going to happen in there. You got all your milestones in there. You've actually done everything that people talk about when they go through all this, goal setting and what it looks like. But really all we're doing is, what's the future? What do you need to do to get there? And then you have to create it, right? And go from there. So we say here that this is a saying I found, when you commit your dreams to paper, you release them out into the world. So I'm going to take that a step further. Okay. And what I say is that when you share your goals with other people, you really release them out into the world. And so I'm going to ask anybody, if you'd like to read what you wrote, read your story, because I'm going to ask you to share your story with someone else. And one of the reasons why, it's like for Tanya. So like Tanya, like if I see you again, do you know that, how am I going to relate to you? Like there's Tanya, I know she's Tanya B, right? But what I know about Tanya is someone who's completing her online course, and she's going to have it done by August 20, 2022, right? Why? Because she shared with me that's her goal. And the next time, the more people that you share this with, there's two things that happen. One, people are going to cheer you on, and they're going to be like, man, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And two, you're kind of be a little guilted into it, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do it now. I told everybody I would. Yes, that's a good thing, right? And the more you practice that, the easier it gets. But by really sharing with people and telling people, here's what I'm up to. One, that's how they know you now. And the next time they see you, that's what they're thinking about. And now you're on the hook for it. They become your accountability partners because you've shared with them about what you're up to in your life. So anybody want to read their story, what you came up with and what you've got?
I am happy to.
Okay, bring it on, Jody.
Okay. So, but just as a disclaimer, I hope that the dollar figures don't bother anyone, so I apologize. Oh, and my daughter Callie's in the car. So
Okay.
Looking back, I can't believe I've achieved my goal to get our dream home in Utah from when we just visited Park City last August. First, I paid our house off in September. Second, I started every day with the Lord on how I could help others each day and inviting him to inspire and direct me in my path. Third, I blocked my time and I only worked when my kids were at school, Callie was napping, or when they were asleep. I was available for them. Fourth, my off-market sourcing campaign that started in August 2021 was dialed in and the deal pipeline happened. Fifth, my deal pipeline allowed me to double my personal assets to $20 million and those of my company to $60 million. Sixth, I found out the parameters to donate to BYU to the President's $1 million Club we are giving annually at that level. Seventh, I set a budget of $2 million for our Park City house, and we are tickled to be looking with you to find it and let it become an amazing space we can enjoy as a family. Let's go. Thanks, family and God, for supporting me.
Wow, that's awesome, man. And now we know more about you, Jody, right? And what you're up to. And BYU is going to be so excited, right? Like, bring it on, right? That's awesome.
Thank you for letting us do that. That was good for me to verbalize the date and commit. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why we do that. So anybody else, you want to, Tanya or Jessica, Katrina? Be brave. Come on, Tanya's going to hit that button. I knew it. Okay, you go, girl.
Okay, now I actually wrote quite a bit. So here we go. And wow, it took a long time to get through half of my one online class, but now I finished two. I never thought I would finish the one, much less two classes. It all started with the fantastic parent workshop with Mr. D Math. I was blown away with how simple the goal setting was. I knew school was going to take a lot of my time and energy, so I used school preparation to review my class. The second class I chose was also teaching related. I talked to the boys and we scheduled a time when I could have quiet while they read. Then while figuring out lessons, I used the strategies I learned to reinforce it for the kids as well as for me. I did the bulk of my studying after dinner while the boys had their screen time. Oh, another fantastic tool that helped me achieve my goal was noise canceling headphones. I use them with my laptop and computer to drown out all the other noise and distractions. I use the spaced learning method where I do 45 minutes daily, and weekends I did a couple sessions with a good break. To help accomplish peace of mind, I schedule the kids to do a daily cleanup. We go around the house and put it in order in the afternoons before dinner and screens.
That is awesome. That's so awesome. And I got some of those noise canceling. I got the earbuds on. I'm like, I love it. Right. That's so cool. Oh, that's great. It's great. You've got buy-in from your family now, because they're gonna support you and they're gonna cheer you on. You got this, Mom. It's so good. Oh, that's awesome. All right. So I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Who is it that you're gonna share this story with? Okay. So Tanya, who are you gonna share your story with?
Well, my husband first, because he's going to be home soon. And then with friends to help me keep accountability on keeping going.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good. Jessica, who are you sharing your story with?
My family, of course. But, you know, I work with Katrina, so me and her can start bugging each other about which books we're reading. Keep each other accountable.
Yay, that's good. Okay, good. Katrina, how about you? Who are you sharing your story with?
I'm going to share it with my husband, but I have another friend I want to share it with, because I'm kind of wondering whether when you share this, sometimes your friends have ideas that can
Absolutely.
push this along a little bit better.
Absolutely. They will for sure. Jody, who are you going to be sharing your story with?
Well, I've already shared mine with my husband. I wrote it in email format, so it's already off. And my two business partners.
Oh, that's great. Very good. You got your own mastermind group going right there. That's cool. So, you know, we looked at the cluster diagram. There's the large rectangle, the ellipses, the rectangles around the ellipses. It's all right here. And if you notice, this is actually super simple, right? It's just like going through it. So we'll get you something that we can email this to yourself and you can do it, or I'll send Katrina a link to it and she can get you guys. So if you want to do that, or if you're watching and you want to get that, you can check with Katrina and she'll send it to you. But we always say here, mind over matter, right? Kind of a fun little thing. So we've got the story time. We're there. We've got our sharing done, and the people that you're sharing with, and you just had a chance to do that. So I'll give you guys. Actually, let me take you to this last part here, because this is if you want to write this website down, it's actually through our website. And if you just go to mrdmath.com/goals, and if you're watching right now, just take a moment to write this down. And what it's going to do is it's going to take you to a page where it's going to ask you to put in your name and your email address, and then it's going to email you this whole entire presentation. So you won't have the video link to it, but you can watch the video because it's being recorded. But then you'll have all the pages, and you can go through. And there's actually a few extra things in there in the document we'll send you. It's got the whole creating the future, as we call it. So you'll see that in there as well. And this is what the landing page looks like. It just says, thanks for attending the workshop. There's a little click here to subscribe down here. And if you see that handsome guy right there, who then you know, hey, I'm at the right place. Yeah, first name, last name, and email, and it'll send it to you right away, and that'll be it. So that's kind of how that goes. And I do want to share with you one of the because I've done this so many times, right? But when the Mr. D Math company was actually started in 2008. And our first group of classes started in 2010. And in 2008, I was looking for some direction. And so I hired, as I had mentioned earlier, I hired this business coach. And she said to me, she said, you're not going to do a 1-year goal. You're going to do a 5-year goal. And she said, I want you to pick the date for when you're going to have this complete. And I was like, fine. Well, let's see, that's 2013. And I'm like, this is an easy one, right? So I picked the date, May 12th, 2013, because it's 5, 12, 13, which is, if you take geometry and the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, 5 squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. I was like, how could I forget 5, 12, 13, right? It was just a no-brainer for me. And so I wrote everything out and I had all my goals in there. And at the time, there were no math videos. I wasn't doing classes. I was just getting started in trying to see what this might look like. And so my 5-year goal had that I was recording videos every week, and I was starting classes, and the classes were going to be in the Florida area, and we were going to have 100 students by then, and we were going to have other teachers working with us, right? So I had this whole goal. I had the goals written down, and I had my cluster diagram, and I would read it every day for 6 months. And I did that night and day, and I did it without fail, to the point where it was in my head. That's what was going to happen. So there was a couple of things about that. One, I went so far beyond the goal, it was kind of crazy, right? Because it was like that was done within the first 2 years. All of a sudden we had 100 students. I'm in Florida. Then we started looking at, well, how do we grow outside of Florida, and what does that look like? And we're so far beyond where that was. But I want to tell you where I was on 5/12/13. So on May 12th, 2013, because I'd written my story and what my day was going to be like. So it turned out that I wasn't where I said I was going to be. But here's what's so amazing about that, because on May 12th, 2013, I was at my dad's funeral. So if you think about, of all the days, right now, one thing you should know is my dad had Alzheimer's, and he was really sick. And so, it was definitely more beyond past his time when it was his time. So there was really a celebration of his life on that day. And, I remember speaking that day, and this date is etched in my brain, right? And my business coach came, and she lived in Atlanta, and I was in Sarasota, Florida, and she drove down. She was so kind of caught up in it because we had stayed in touch, and she goes, I'm driving to this funeral. I want to be there with you. And I was like, absolutely. So she was down, and my dad was worked in the school system, and he was an educator. And one of the things about my dad that was really amazing was he moved our family from Pennsylvania to Florida in 1969. And so if you think back to what the times were like in 1969, especially in the Southeast of the United States, he went to a school program where he was working at an elementary school, and he was the only white person on an all-Black campus in 1969. And you look at that, and you look at where we are today, and you think back then about what the time was like. And and I always thought about my dad, it's like he was just so cutting edge when it came to being an educator, and he always was willing to try something new and do something that no one had ever done before. And so that day for me was an opportunity to just acknowledge my dad, because when I was looking at what we've been doing and what I've been working on, and the videos and the courses and creating everything that there was, it was just a chance to honor my dad for who he was. And so where I didn't have that planned or predicted, I couldn't have been at a better place. And so that was my day, right? On 5/12/13, that's where I was. And it was even better than when I had written down, because it was a day where I could really celebrate who I was as an educator, and I could honor my dad in the process. And it was just amazing. So when I say kind of magic happens, magic really does happen. So, you never really know where this is going to go. And at the same time, you know exactly where it's going to go, because we get to have a say about it. And that's it. So, yeah, so you guys, so I hope that you found that the time together, it was useful, it was powerful for you, and it's something that you can take and use, right? Because it's not like, this is something that it's not like when you walk away, oh, I can't remember what he did. You could totally remember. Make a rectangle, write it down, and create a story, and here we go. So that's gonna do it from there. I'm gonna close my my screen sharing here, and then yeah, we can just say, really just thank you for your time and attention, and thanks for being here, and thanks for having me. It's just I love doing this. I guess probably one thing I should share with you is that we have a course that's called College and Career Readiness. And I apologize for the two-tone of my face. So it's dark now, so I got a light on, and usually it's the other way around, the daylight's out and I get the other side. But we have a course that's called College and Career Readiness, and it's for high school students. And this is one of the exercises we go through. So we work with them on goal setting and time management, really having them look at, are you headed towards college, and what does that look like? Are you headed towards a career path, and what does that look like? And we meet in a class. So there it is. There's my 30-second. If you want to find out more about that, just hop on our website and get more info about it. Or Katrina, I can send you more information about that. But I love that class, because for me, that's a class that it's not it's really about life skills, and it's about the things that young people need to have them be successful out there. And for me, it's like, it's a leadership training class, and we're really developing young people to be strong leaders. And we need that. We need that in the world today. So, okay, you guys, any questions, comments, anything that we can do to wrap up here? How you guys doing?
Well, Mr. D, now we have all fallen in love with you. So you should just tell us what you offer besides college and career readiness, because some people might not know.
Oh, sure. So we have math classes that start. We added a new class this year called Preparing for Pre-Algebra. That's typically that advanced fifth grader or sixth grader student. And then we started pre-algebra. We go through pre-calculus. And I was telling Katrina, we are working on a calculus 1 course that we're going to have ready for the fall of next year, for our August 2022. We'll have a calculus 1 course. We're doing a pilot with it this year. We have the college and career readiness. We have American Sign Language. We have American Sign Language 1, 2, and 3. We have a American grammar class. That's basically that's 9th grade English 1. We're going to have English 2 ready by right now. The team says it's going to be ready by January. So that's the plan and what they're working towards. We have a music theory class. We have 2 classes that deal with flamenco, 1 dancing and 1 guitar playing. I travel between here, Puerto Rico, and in Spain. My kids are in Spain, and I'm back and forth because I need an American office. And so this is the easiest place to get back and forth to Spain from Puerto Rico, believe it or not. And so with my US office being here, and then I'm with my kids, my son who's 16 is a dancer, and he's a flamenco dancer, and he's in the Royal Ballet of Spain. And so we did a flamenco class with one of his choreographers, and he's learning guitar. So we did a guitar class with his teacher, with his guitar teacher. Let's see, what else do we have? We have a study skills class, and we have a technology program with a group that we work with out of Orlando, Florida. So they do computer programming. But I think that's everything. And if you're on our website, it's mrdmath.com. You can see everything that we got on there. And yeah, we have an amazing staff. So one thing I'll tell you about our staff is that all of our program leaders, everybody that leads courses, and anybody that works on our admin are all from our courses. So it's either students who are now in college and they work part-time for us, or it's their moms. So, and our teachers have all started by doing co-ops in their home area, and then they came and now they work online with us and do the live classes. So it's a real family-based kind of business. I love it because it's like, I know everybody and we all know each other, and it's just, it's kind of a big family in how we work and how we get along with each other. But that's us.
Well, thank you for telling us, because, we all want to hang out with you more. So this
okay, well,
tells us how. Yeah. Any other questions?
Mr. D, thank you so much for your help today. And I just would love to connect with you offline. I saw your format for your math and how you taught that online, and was very impressed. And our kids swapped over to that. But I would love to talk with you about reading, because in Alaska, we rank the lowest in the country. And I'm currently working on some things to help with reading in the state. And I would love to get your input on how that can scale on a format like you do. And there's nothing currently that fills that niche. So anyway, I will connect with you offline. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jody, my email is really easy. It's dennis@mrdmath.com. So my first name @mrdmath.com. Feel free to send me an email. Our live classes kick off on Monday. So this next week is a little hectic, but the week after I'll be way more available. So happy to connect.
Mr. D, I wanted to echo what people are saying. My kids all do your math classes. And actually, while you were speaking, I got the email from Mr. H for my son.
Yay!
Like while you were speaking, it popped up. So anyways, you do a great job. Thank you for creating that. It's been just a great format for my kids. And we've done a lot of online courses, and yours is our favorite for math specifically.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for that. That's great. No, that's great to hear. Very cool. Okay, guys. Well, anything else?
Just a huge thank you for coming and hanging out with us this afternoon. We're all a little jealous that you're so sunny and warm, but other than that, this has been super, super fun. Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right. Well, it was nice to be with you and meet you all. And we do try to get to the conventions in Alaska. So those are usually like April, May. So we should be back again. So we'll see you in person, maybe. That'd be great.
We'll look for you, or we'll have you at our school. Can't wait, Mr. D.
That would be awesome. Okay, cool. All right. That sounds great. All right, you guys. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.